Hi Teak, great speaking with you earlier today. Hope you're doing better. I just finished a sauna session here at my house, and I happen to have some of the stuff that we were talking about out earlier today. So I thought I'd make a quick video for you and for other people that are asking about binders. When we talked about you seeing the functional medicine doctor, the same thing happened to me. Generally, when you do synthetic chelation or something like with the Andy Cutler protocol, you would take alpha lipoic acid on a regimented schedule in accordance with the half-life of whichever chelator you're using, whether it's ALA, DMPS, or any of them. But if you're taking alpha lipoic acid, it crosses the blood-brain barrier. So if you just take that once a day, it's not something that I would do. It's something that I had trouble with seeing my functional medicine doctor. But anyway, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is the cilantro oil. Whenever you take cilantro oil, usually you pair this with some type of binder, and you would take the binder before. And the reason why is, now again, this isn't medical advice. I'm not a doctor. I can't advise you. Please see a licensed medical practitioner for medical advice, blah, 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 blah. You know the drill. I can't tell you what to do. I can't tell you how to heal yourself. I'm not a doctor. That said, generally when you take any type of a natural chelator like cilantro oil, or you make a cilantro paste, or you're eating cilantro-based foods in order to detox heavy metals, most people that do that when they start, they have some type of a gut impairment like I did. And so what happens is you don't have anything to bind up that stuff, and you might have a leaky gut. So what happens is you get a redistribution of mercury, essentially, or whatever heavy metal. It might happen to be aluminum was higher than my mercury levels. I still had the mercury, but so usually people will pair, the most common is cilantro oil with chlorella. And so a lot of people believe in chlorella. I don't think it's a super strong binder myself. It still is a good combination. Most of the time, if you look up the research by like Dr. Klinghardt, he would recommend something like chlorella a half an hour to 40 minutes before, because you want to line the gut with chlorella so that anything that does get dispelled from the cilantro oil gets captured and latched onto, and then you can excrete it out. That's the whole purpose of doing this. Otherwise, if your other excretory or detox systems, or whatever you want to call them, are not working 100%, and you're doing this stuff, basically you're stirring things up and it's getting recirculated, and you may not be getting rid of it. I'm sure that most functional medicine doctors can advise you. I'm sure yours is very good. Might just be something that you want to ask, and I'll talk about the rest of the binders too, because I found some other ones that I think work better than chlorella, much better actually. But anytime you do, oh, I'm sorry. Dr. Klinghardt would, if you looked it up, would recommend usually you do chlorella 30 to 40 minutes before bed, and then just before bed you do your 2 drops of cilantro or something like that. This is a very long protocol though, in accordance with his standards. Some of the other binders would be, we've got 2 different types of chlorella. We'll just turn that one around. And you don't have to remember all this stuff. I'll come back to the YouTube video. I probably won't get it done right away, but I'll come back and put links because I've got some stuff that's unlabeled here. This is DE, or diatomaceous earth. This is another intestinal sweep that a lot of people use with great results. Not necessarily as a binder, but just as an intestinal sweep. You can also do things like soak chia seeds in almond milk and create like a very thick paste or pudding that you eat. A lot of people like to use activated charcoal. Again, like as we talked about, I don't recommend doing this all the time because it wipes away your good stuff along with the bad. So if you're already having gut issues, usually people that have heavy metal toxicity have gut issues because the gut is lined with some type of metal, which does all types of things. Next we have coconut activated charcoal, which I think is better than regular activated charcoal. However, I still wouldn't take this all the time. I take this over regular charcoal powder just because I think it's cleaner and it works a little better, and I think it's just a better choice. Next would be chitosan. This is something that not many people know about. This is not widely known as far as a recommendation for a binder, but if you can't make smoothies every day or something like that to where you get a lot of fiber to really flush and do a digestive sweep, this stuff can help with that. It's one of the better binders out there. A lot of people know about this one, Pectisol. It's basically a citrus derivative. It helps bind to heavy metals. And then the one that I use the most now, and my favorite, that it took me forever to find is this. It's from Russia. It's called Enterosgel. Most everything on it is going to be in Russian, unless you can find it. Again, I'm going to put links to YouTube in the YouTube description below where you can just click and find all this stuff, so you don't have to remember the names. Some of it can be really difficult to pronounce or understand, like this one. It's actually called Enterosgel in the small letters here. But anyway, point being, you can get this on Amazon. It's most of this stuff is very cheap. This is less than $20, but this is one of the better binders, intestinal binders, that I've ever used. This is my #1 recommendation for people that are detoxing with saunas. You'll want to take this, you say 30 minutes before you get in the sauna. They have a recommended protocol when you buy it that comes on a little pamphlet in English that makes it pretty easy. But it is very different. It doesn't taste the best, but it's not bad. And it's basically just like a clear, it's almost like a clear pre-mixed activated charcoal. And so essentially, if you're doing any type of natural chelators like cilantro, or even just saunaing and not taking any supplements that induce and it's some type of chelation, you'll want to be using some type of a binder so that you can be sure that you don't get some type of redistribution using something that crosses the blood-brain barrier. Because a lot of people recommend that you do crazy stuff like, I even had to stop taking my multivitamin that had 25 milligrams of alpha lipoic acid in it, because I could detect a little bit more brain fog on the days when I would take that versus 2 or 3 days after I stopped taking it and I'm doing all this other stuff, all of a sudden my brain works better. And then if I've tested it several times now, if I do exactly the same thing every day, I'm saunaing every day, I'm doing the walks, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and then I add back in the multivitamin or anything else that has alpha lipoic acid in it, boom, it's like I'm out of it, I'm fatigued, I have those out-of-body experiences, I have anxiety, all these things. And so, you know, I don't know I think everybody's body is different. And there's so many protocols out there, it's hard to kind of, you know, put 2 and 2 together sometimes. You have to, you know, do what's right for you and do what works best for you. But there's another thing called zeolite that some people like. This is the only brand of zeolite that I would recommend anybody buy. I'll put a link to it in the description. It's a little bit hard to find. I don't think Pure Body, it says Pure Body on there, but I don't think that's really the brand. A lot of the zeolites are either contaminated or don't work or all this kind of thing. But for you specifically, Teak, if you're doing the cilantro oil, I would definitely pair that with some Enterosgel or some other type of binder, maybe activated charcoal once a week, and then maybe Pectosol C and Chitosan every day with this. But preferably, this is probably the best binder that I know of for anyone trying to detox. And for everyone else out there, I personally don't do cilantro myself all the time, but what I do is I take Enterosgel and I pair that with the sauna. So anything that maybe becomes dislodged from my liver or from the lymphatic system, or that gets circulating after a really intense sauna session, especially if I exercise beforehand to try to increase the blood flow and then really get certain areas sweating like the legs, you can definitely release a few things, and it's a good idea to line the gut with some type of a binder beforehand, right? So you can wait until, I mean, I have waited until 30 minutes after a sauna session to take a binder, but I like to do it before. So that way it has a good chance for everything to get digested and go, you know, work its way through and be ready to catch, you know, whatever is there. And so the other theory, or the other train of thought about this is, you know, from a lot of the research that I've done, many people, they even do it with, we'll just leave this alone because I'm a little bit fanatic about this stuff. I really think it's the best binder that you can get. And I don't know why no one else told me about this. I just don't think they know about it. Even activated charcoal or whatever else. Typically what most of the protocols, even the Clean Heart research, some of the other guys, any of the chelation protocols, when you wake up in the morning and your body has been doing its thing during rest all night long, they want you to take some type of a binder immediately when you wake up. And obviously you don't ever take binders around any other types of medications or any other types of supplements, because if you were to take some type of medication at the same time that you took activated charcoal, the medication wouldn't do anything because this will gobble it up, right? It's almost like, imagine it as like a sticky goop that completely just gobbles something up and disappears, and that's exactly what happens. And then the whole blob moves through you and nothing gets absorbed or digested. But anyway, the other protocol that is supposed to be really effective, I can't vouch for this firsthand, but it's widely recommended by several doctors. When you wake up in the morning, the first thing you're gonna do is take a binder, whichever one you want, whichever one your stomach likes. This is very easy on my stomach, which is why I recommend it all the time. No vested interest, don't know the people, can't even read half the language that's on there because the Russians didn't put it in English, but it just works really well and I'm fanatical about it. But you wake up in the morning, take binder, and then you eat within 30 minutes of being awake. And so what they want to do is they want to capture that first bile squirt, right? So when the bile squirts into the intestines, they want something to be in there, almost like a cradle, right? So if you think about it as the liver's been doing its thing when you sleep, you wake up, and just before you eat, when the bile is about to squirt into the intestines, you want to kind of create some type of a cradle in there. And if your intestinal lining is weak, you know, the permeability is weak, when toxins get excreted into there, they can pass through that barrier and get redistributed elsewhere, which is why a lot of people just go around and around and stay sick, myself included. And so when you line the gut with something, it almost creates, I'm creating a visualization. This isn't exactly how it happens inside, but it's close. You want to create some type of a lining, or just think of it as a cradle. We'll do one-dimensional so you're not thinking about the whole thing. And so when the bile when it squirts in, it gets captured, and then you eat, and then that gets pushed through. And so it's binding the toxins. You want to eat a fibrous meal, that's going to push through. You want to make sure that your digestion is good and your bowel movements are good, and so you excrete that stuff. And so that's a particular protocol. I don't remember the name for it, but if you do any research on this stuff at all, it should come up quite a bit. And a lot of people recommend doing activated charcoal with that, but like we talked about, if in case somebody else sees this video that didn't hear the conversation before, if you use activated charcoal all the time for any length of time, it's going to wipe out the beneficial things in your gut as well as the bad. So while activated charcoal is awesome, if you get food poisoning, I haven't tried this, but supposedly you can reverse it in 2 hours by taking a shitload of activated charcoal. And so yeah, I just thought I would do a video on the best binders for chelation therapy, or just doing a sauna detox or something like that. And I'll try to put links to each one of these things in the YouTube description down below. I hope that helps you.